And we are back. It's finally crossover edition. It's crossover Locked On Chiefs, crossover Locked On Browns. Jeff Lloyd is with me as well. Jeff, how are you doing?
Couldn't be better. As we were saying here, Chris, as exciting as this week is, and here we are, a couple days before. It's oh my God, can we just get going already? I mean,
I know,
so much
right?
talk, and I think maybe it's the extra week, but I think everybody's pretty much just chomping at the bit here to get to opening Sunday of the NFL season.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. This is opening Sunday. How is that going to play out for these teams? And we will get into that here in a little bit later. Jeff's going to ask me some questions about the Chiefs. I'm going to ask him some questions about the Browns, and then we'll get into our predictions later. But let's jump into the news really quick. Tyrann Mathieu is still on the COVID list as of right now, as of this recording. He has not had his 2 negative tests. I did hear that they think that it's possible he could be available for Wednesday's practice. As of now, we don't have that information, so it's possible he'll be available. It's also possible that he's still unavailable as of when the crossover comes out. So we don't know whether or not he's going to be able to play.
It's a difficult situation, obviously, for the Chiefs to be in. Tyrann Mathieu is such a unicorn hybrid type of defensive back, can do anything that you ask of a player like that. And you certainly, as Chris and I talk about this, you have to almost kind of be respectful to the situation. Whether or not Tyrann is actually going through something, neither one of us have any concrete information to go with. So, your first thoughts are, you're hoping for the player that he's okay, especially he's about to endure an 18-week regular season, 17 games. So all the best for one of the, finer safeties in the NFL. I guess that would lead to probably my first question for this, situation, Chris. Being that he's so, diversified, so unique, what's the first thing the Chiefs do in a situation like this where, oh my God, maybe there is a possibility that Tyrann Mathieu can't go on Sunday?
I think you're going to have to change how your defense plays. He does so many different things. You said he is unique. He gets to play so many different positions on this Chiefs defense. He'll play the robber role. He'll come down and play nickel corner. He'll play corner. He'll play, back in the back end of the defense. He'll just be all over the field. And I think if he's not available on Sunday, then it really changes what you're able to do. I do think that Tyrann will be available. But if he's not, then Juan Thornhill has to step up and be in his place. But you're not going to be able to run the 3 safety sets that Kansas City likes so much and have Thornhill, Mathieu, and Sorensen on the field all at the same time. So that's going to change things too. And you're still dealing with an injury with Willie Gay, who's now on IR. So you could be thin at linebacker and safety, which is going to make it even more complex.
Certainly, sets up for the possibility for, possibly a track meet Sunday in Arrowhead.
Absolutely.
But, we've messaged a little bit about this over the summer. And we'll get to this when we talk about the Browns. Everybody wants to talk about, the Browns are breaking into a new defense. It's going to take time. And obviously, look, there's no question about that. But Chris, in the same respect, what the Browns looks like they're going to be able to feature is a strong defensive line. You look across the side, 3 rookies starting, all the newness on the offensive line for this Kansas City Chiefs. You're going to have some players essentially going, wow, so that's Myles Garrett. Wow, that's Jadeveon Clowney. Oh, wait, wow, I'm not here watching. I am here. This is my job. I'm getting paid. I got to make sure that these guys are not getting anywhere near number 15. So can you give us some thoughts here, about how it's looked so far, confidence level, as far as what this offensive line is shaping up to be, as, it seems weird with the investment you have in Patrick Mahomes that you just said, you know what, we're going to tear it down and go ahead and build a brand new one. But sometimes situations, tip the hands, and here the Chiefs are debuting a new offensive line for the 2021 season.
Yeah, you've never had a situation where a Super Bowl contender or a Super Bowl team from the previous year had 5 new offensive linemen the next year, and that's exactly where Kansas City is. They have 3 guys that are rookies, 2 that are really rookies, 1 that opted out last year, so he is, for all intents and purposes, a rookie on the right tackle. So your center, your right guard, and your right tackle are all basically rookies. Your left guard is Joe Thuney. He's fantastic, and you have your left tackle in Orlando Brown, who I think is going to be very good as well. But he is coming to Kansas City from a Baltimore front that was a lot more run-heavy than Kansas City's is going to be. So it's going to be adjustment for everybody. Thuney can do everything, so I think you feel very good about that left guard position. I think you feel good about Brown at left tackle. And honestly, with the way things have played in the preseason, you got to feel pretty good about Creed Humphrey as your center and Trey Smith as your right guard. And honestly, Lucas Niang has looked very good as well. So I do think that they're in a good position. But it's going to be a huge test for them. They're going up against a fantastic defensive line. So that's definitely something that you don't want necessarily the first full game that they have to play. But it's going to be a great test, and it's going to be something where they have to step in and they have to perform right away.
No question. And, look, smart teams, it doesn't, if this was a team that wasn't succeeding, you'd be like, well, what are you doing? The one thing you have going for yourself is your franchise quarterback. But when you're coming off of, winning a Super Bowl, making it back to another Super Bowl, even if you lost, you should be given the benefit of the doubt in those situations that possibly you know what you're doing. There's no way we can get through this without obviously speaking about number 15 a little bit. Coming back, off the injury, has played some in the preseason here. But Patrick Mahomes now, this is, I think this is probably where maybe some teams in the AFC should maybe be a little nervous. Like, how is he wired? Won one Super Bowl, lost his second one, 2 in a row. You're almost a little concerned, like, and we've seen him put up just absolutely bananas numbers to this point. Like, where's the drive? I mean, now, is the NFL like, I mean, are we talking now, what, 60, 62, 63 touchdown passes? With what, Patrick has, and obviously, keeping Tyreek Hill around, of course, McCole Hardman, Kelsey, keeping this, core group that he seems to have so much success with. Some thoughts here about, 15 as, just now, hopefully maybe trying to string together a third Super Bowl appearance.
I think the big thing when you look at Patrick Mahomes is you have to be ready to see what he can do and where he is from his injury last year. I think he's looked very good in the preseason, so I think that's going to work to his advantage. But then you start looking at what he has on this team. He still has Tyreek Hill. He still has McCole Hardman. But you're right. You put him in a situation where he's coming in with a brand new offensive line. But if you look at what happened in the Super Bowl, you almost had to go and replace everybody. You had 4 of your starters out in that Super Bowl, and the 5th one wasn't good enough to be a starter. So, I understand why they went that way with the offensive line. I think Mahomes is going to take a new step forward, and the bigger question is what's he going to improve on this year? It seems like he's improved on something every single year, and you're adding now a 17th game. What is that going to mean for some of the records that have stood in the NFL for years? I honestly don't know. And I'm not trying to say Mahomes is going to break them all, although he could. But what's it going to do for the rest of them?
Yeah, certainly interesting. And of course, you're going to get the, the old guard of the NFL. Everybody, well, asterisk. Everybody wants to throw an asterisk on something,
Right.
Even though this is the new norm. And of course, those old players, if it meant playing a 17th game to be making the money these players are today, I think they would have been more than okay with it. Maybe a player or two here, Chris. Every team, there's always the roster evolution. We've spoken a little bit about the offensive line here. But maybe, a player still here, or maybe a rookie or somebody that was brought in here, some players that maybe some of my Browns fans won't be so familiar with as players who possibly are on the rise in their NFL careers.
L'Jarius Sneed. And I would think that most people would start to know that name if they really pay attention to the NFL because there are so many people talking about him. But he played fantastic last year for Kansas City when he was healthy. I do think that he's going to take a big step forward this year, and he's going to play a pivotal role as their number 1 corner. And I do believe that that's the role he's going to play. Then you start looking at other guys, other young guys. They went and traded for Mike Hughes. He's going to be a starting corner for the Chiefs this year. How's that going to play out? He didn't look very good in Minnesota. What is that going to be? And how's that going to be adjusted for in Kansas City? And then, you flip it over to the offensive side. We've already talked about the young rookies, but I will say this. Creed Humphreys look like what you expected from a second-round pick, and that name is probably going to be more familiar to more people because he played in Oklahoma, and he was a second-round pick. Watch out for Trey Smith.
Yep.
The kid was a late-round pick, and you're sitting here in a situation where he should have been a second-round pick probably, but because of medical issues, he got bumped down to where he got drafted. And from what I have seen, this kid is looking the part of being a potential Pro Bowl right guard for years to come. Now, don't get me wrong, he's going to be raw. There's things he's going to have to work on, but it is going to be a lot of fun to watch him going forward.
Yeah, with Trey Smith, and this was a player, I followed, deeply through the draft process. The tape was always there. There were concerns of a little bit about a back injury, and of course the fact that Tennessee's program has certainly fallen off the beaten path, SEC wise, certainly didn't help him. But this is why GMs, such as what we're hoping for Andrew Berry to be here in Cleveland, similar to what you guys have going on in Kansas City. This is how you make things work, and this is how you find a way to save money to play star players, is by finding hopefully third day gems in the NFL draft who can come in right away and start. We're having a blast here thus far. The first crossover edition of Locked On Chiefs, Locked On Browns for the 2021 NFL season. We're going to flip it up here in a second. Chris going to grill me here on some things Cleveland Brown wise. We enjoy you all being along for the ride.
Attention gamblers of all shapes and sizes. Our friends at Manscaped have a can't-miss bet for you today. The leaders in male grooming just launched their 4th-generation performance package. The betting odds are in your favor when you use the Lawnmower 4.0. Across the board, this is the package to get you in the mood for whatever your gambling heart desires. Ready to take the leap to male grooming royalty? 2 million men already have. Join the Manscaped movement by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code LOCKEDON. The Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped is the ultimate parlay to take your grooming game to the next level. Hitting a favorite is fun, but shaving with confidence, the folks at Manscaped have given me just that and have my trust when trimming the boys. The recently released Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is a favorite. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. It also gives you the ability to turn the 4,000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave, plus it's waterproof. Odds are that you'll be sweating and feeling the heat after a big bet. Fix the sweat and stink with Manscaped's liquid formulations, their crop preserver, ball deodorant for before and after you send it, and the crop reviver ball toner for when you need a boost mid-bet. Manscaped has a bonus add-in to their performance package with the boxers and the Shed travel bag. These tools get your boys in your comfort zone before the games start. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. Fellas, don't gamble on shaving with the wrong tools. Choose Manscaped. Your balls will thank you. All right, so let's just jump back into this. We're sitting here and we're looking at the first game of the season. And honestly, like you said earlier, I cannot wait for this game. I've been excited about the NFL football coming back for a very long time. And they're finally able to get into a situation where the Chiefs are actually going to have a full stadium. And I do think that's going to play into this game as well. I do think Arrowhead is going to be packed and it is going to be very loud. When you look at this Browns team, what is different from when they played last against Kansas City in the playoffs? That had to have been a brutal game for you guys to go through, especially with the Mahomes injury and then Chad Henne's heroics late.
Well, I mean, offense, it's not a ton, but we'll get to that in a second. You have to talk about the defense side of the ball. You're talking anywhere between 8 to 9 new starters on this defense. Myles, Garrett, everybody knows Denzel Ward, but after that, a lot of the names have changed here. They've gone to, I mean, the approach was simple. The approach was, what do we got to do to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs? What do we got to do to get to the top of our own division? Take out a guy like Lamar Jackson, be able to beat Lamar Jackson. Obviously, you have to keep eyes on a quarterback like Josh Allen, mobile quarterbacks, and extend plays. They can extend plays and kill you with their arms. So what do they do now? And number one got their defense more talent. They got their defense more athletic. They got their defense more football intelligent. You bring in a player like John Johnson III. He wore the green dot for the Los Angeles Rams last year. He was their signature on defense. You bring in Anthony Walker at the middle linebacker spot. 1-year deal, didn't pay him a ton of money, but was also the signal caller for the Colts last year. Everybody saw Darius Leonard basically profess his love for Anthony Walker on social media after he signed with the Cleveland Browns, mentioning that he would not be anywhere but Andy Walker. So you bring in intelligent players. You bring in Jadeveon Clowney. There's very few people who have the athletic makeup similar to what Myles Garrett is. Jadeveon Clowney is one of those guys. To bring in Takk McKinley. Takk McKinley is actually faster than both Jadeveon and Myles Garrett. So now you have edges, even if they don't get home. Once quarterbacks start running or even going downfield, these guys can actually catch them from behind. This is the type of foot speed these players have. They made a nice signing. I was critical of it at the time. Took a gamble on Malik McDowell. Here's a player that had been in NFL, never has taken a snap in the league. So far, he looks big. He looks strong. He looks athletic. Everybody kind of fell in love with the player out of Michigan State. We kind of view him right now like he's like a surfer with a wave. You're going to ride this. It's something that could go on for 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. You don't know, but you're going to take advantage of the situation. You have a player who looks pretty good at this point. You bring in a player like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Man, he's athletic and he runs around. One thing he does. He is a big-time hitter. That is a reputation that he has. And, I don't care the ilk of any player in the league. You get smacked once early in the game, it's just basic instinct that, you're thinking about it. Maybe it doesn't affect you, but you're certainly more cognizant of the fact that a player like number 28, JOK, is roaming around, and he's literally got no problem. He's the type of guy, the program, he did other, so you bring a player like that. Offensively, and this is the key, and we have no idea exactly how much Odell Beckham Jr. has. He was very limited during training camp. Of course, they were smart with it. The Browns did that with all of the players. So his role, the amount of snaps he can take, were really positive. But he and the growth of Donovan Peoples-Jones, look, the Chiefs came out in that playoff game last year and said, guess what? Here's 11, 9 yards from the line of scrimmage. Beat us deep. Because we don't think he can, and basically challenge him. And guess what? The Browns did not have the personnel at the time to do it. Rashard Higgins, nice player, doesn't have a reputation for getting open deep. Jarvis Landry, even 17, 18 pounds quicker this year. Lighter this year. Yeah, he's quicker. He's not just frightening fast. Players like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Odell Beckham Jr., maybe if the rookie Anthony Schwartz even dresses, he is a player that can do these types of things. That's something that maybe can open this up. And the fact that we don't know the status of Tyrann Mathieu right now at this point, where he can do everything in that secondary. The Browns are coming where hopefully, we said last year so much that it felt like they were playing an arena league style offense. They just weren't able to challenge vertically. Maybe that changes Sunday with the fact that, they have the growth of Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's had a fantastic summer. You're getting Odell back into this mixture, and we'll see where Odell's hunger level is. Players always talked about winning. The Browns finally won a playoff game last year. Odell, only one playoff game he's been a part of, lost. So you wonder where the fire is in a player like that. But a lot of changes, but a lot of it on the defensive side of the ball. And for me, I understand there's going to be some growing pains. This defense may not be as great as it is week one, as it is maybe by 5, 6, 7. But the potential for this to be a top 5, 6, 7 defense in the NFL this year is certainly there.
Well, and I'm glad you bring that up, because you're looking at going up against what has been the best offense in the league the past 2 years, or at least top 3 in the league the past 2 years. And so this is going to be a huge test to the Cleveland defense. And don't get me wrong, I think that Cleveland has a fantastic defense. I'm excited to see how the Chiefs are going to attack it. The one thing that I'm wondering is, we kind of already talked about this when you brought up the offensive line that the Chiefs have that's brand new, and your defensive line. What have you seen from Jadeveon Clowney? What have you seen from guys that are not Myles Garrett?
Well, Jadeveon Clowney, anything we've seen is through camp. So, he's practiced a ton. They easily could have put him on a path similar to other players where they just said, look, we don't care. We don't need you to do a lot. We know it's August. It doesn't matter to us. But he's been out there almost every day. So that shows you that they seem pretty confident in his health. And they had a nice meeting with Myles Garrett. With Jadeveon Clowney originally. And there was a reported date where, everybody doctor-wise, medical-wise said this is the day Jadeveon Clowney should be good to go. So the Browns had their initial meetings with him. It went well. Everybody seemed to be on the same page. The contract talks were perfect. But the Browns said, all right, well, let's get to this date, and we're going to talk then. We want to put him through a physical, all of that stuff. And everything to this point seems to have, clicked in that nature. The interior is a little bit interesting. Malik Jackson is here. Malik Jackson's reputation is, far more greater of being an interior pass rusher than it truly is of being, a true defensive tackle. Andrew Billings, the Browns, signed going into last season. He was a player that opted out as well. The weight hasn't been, great, and he's slowly been working on getting his weight down. But again, this is a player, I'm not sure how important he's going to be to play the Kansas City Chiefs. You guys look, we'll run it if we have to, but if we got if we had $500 million, we paid him to throw the ball around the yard. So you're not sure how much that's going to matter. Jordan Elliott, second-year defensive tackle. The summer started slow. He put a lot of work in, getting his body different from his rookie year, adding strength, trying to lose bad weight. It was slow at start, but he closed out the preseason strong. Malik McDowell has just been really interesting to this point. You see the flashes. And, again, this is a guy athletically as well, very similar to Myles, Garrett, and, Jadeveon Clowney, that, athletically, you give them that freak label. Granted, the guy hasn't done anything football-wise in 4 seasons, but interesting in that regard. Joe Jackson ended up being the guy kept as their 4th defensive end on the regular 53. Joe Jackson is more of a toolsy guy, a guy who's going to do his assignment. He's better in the run game than necessarily he is as a pass rusher. But when you're saying that you have Garrett, you have Clowney, you have Takk McKinley, maybe you need that guy who's going to do that aspect. And he's going to, maybe not try for the flash play, is basically going to be, the guy with, who shows up with the toolbox and says, no problem, you need me to set the edge, I'll be the guy to set the edge.
Yeah, and that's definitely something you're going to need when you have all that talent surrounding him. You have the ability to have that guy that's going to do just his job and just get that part of it done. So one of the things that's always stuck out to me is the Browns had a fantastic offensive line last year. It looks like they're going to have a good offensive line again this year. But the last thing I really want to ask you about, when you start looking at this game, the Browns' record in season openers has been so abysmal. And I understand that's the past. That's not that's not the present, but what do you think what do you think can be taken from that? Because they just have not started good at any point in the past 15 or 16 seasons.
Well, when you start every year with either a new head coach, a new quarterback, a new offense, or there is just nothing ever has been the same. And you look at this, they are returning every single coach, every single offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, everything is the same. And we actually got into this in the show, the Lockdown Browns is going to be released here shortly, is you now have something else. Look, you have to watch the NFL. You can watch all the film in the world, but the other teams watch the same stuff that they haven't seen yet. So what do you do in those situations? If you're a new regime, what do? You have nothing to basically go on. But now you can sit down. Baker can say to Coach Stefanski, hey, remember this happened last year in the second game versus Baltimore. Remember, you took the slot receiver and you took him 3 yards off the tackle as opposed to where he normally lined up. You know what? That way, that linebacker had to take an inside shade, open up the quick out, made it easier. You have ways to reference things now. All right, we've seen this before. We didn't see it from this team, but we have seen this before through our offense, through our lens, and this is what we think we should do to adapt, as opposed to trying to reinvent everything on the fly. And of course, a lot of this comes down to the fact that Kevin Stefanski is just a lot more talented coach than the Browns have had here in a long, long time. And now you have he and Baker and Coach Stefanski actually spent time together this year, where there was some of Baker's influence, well, here, let's show you this. This is something I want to try and incorporate. And where Baker's actually had the thought to say, well, let's try it with so-and-so. Or let's try this personnel with these two here. I know I see you're putting them here. Why don't we have these two on this side, him on this side? And number one, it just makes the relationship better because everybody wants to feel like their voice is being heard, which has been a tremendous job by Andrew Berry and Coach Stefanski. But I think that's one of the biggest things is the fact that it's not new. And they didn't spend this summer the simplest things of, this is how I want the stance to be for a wide receiver. It's literally been, okay, we're on page 300 of the playbook. We don't need to be on page, 2 of the playbook. Like the Browns have been every year in the first week of August, installing a new offense, installing a new defense. None of that's going on right now, which is probably why the confidence level of the Browns themselves, why they all seem so ready to go and, chomping at the bit, is because it feels like they know what they need to know. They just need to get to the field and see, hey, is this good enough? Or do we have to tweak some things? And that's going to be the biggest thing. And that's what happens and we'll find out when, because if they went out and played Houston week 1, which doesn't really look like a quality team, you don't know what you truly need. You go out and play the big dog of the AFC week 1. You're going to know if you're close enough, or what needs to be tweaked, what needs to be worked in, and things of that nature.
And when we get back, we're going to go into our predictions for this game and how it's going to end up from both Jeff and I.
Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all the action at BetOnline. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs, including the MLB, the NFL, the NCAA football season, and all your UFC and MMA action. Before the next pitch, head on over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams are prepping for their runs to the playoffs. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. RockAuto.com is a family-owned business serving auto parts customers online for 20 years. Go to RockAuto.com right now to shop for auto and body parts from hundreds of manufacturers. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your front door. The RockAuto.com catalog is easy and unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available again for your vehicle and choose the brands, specifications, and prices you prefer. Go to RockAuto.com right now, again, and type in their How Did You Hear About Us box, Locked On, so they know the folks over here at Locked On Chiefs and Locked On Browns sent you their way. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com.
So we get back to this game, and I have to say, like I said, I'm excited to see what happens in this game. I do think it could be a shootout, but I'll let you go ahead and give us your prediction. What do you think is going to happen?
See, for me, it is very, very difficult to just, as confident as I am in what this team can be this season, I have not seen this defense. And like we always go back to the movie A Few Good Men, where Tom Cruise is playing the Lord. It's not about what I think. It's about what I can prove. This defense, it sounds fantastic, but I have not seen it play, not even a preseason snap yet. Myles Garrett has not played with Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney hasn't played. Takk McKinley hasn't played. There are so many players that haven't played. I think the potential for this defense is to be great. And to get the Chiefs week 1, it's a huge, huge. And the thing is, we might not know anything. It could just be that the Chiefs were that hot and the Browns defense wasn't truly that ready. That's fine. So for me to put a high confidence level on that I think the Browns are going to go in there and win this game, I have no factual information to prove this. I think it's going to be close. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored, especially if number 32 for Kansas City is unable to play. I think because with the Browns offensive line, if there's not much back there that's going to detract Baker Mayfield, I think he could have a really good day. But again, now you're going against the ultimate gunslinger in the NFL. I think you're maybe talking somewhere 34-30, an okay loss for the Browns to go into Arrowhead. And as I keep telling my Browns listeners, I don't care about the Chiefs in week 1. I care more about the potential matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs in week 21.
And I can't say I blame you on that at all. I do think that this is going to be a fantastic game, and I do think it's going to be high scoring. What I will say is I'm not sure where this Chiefs defense is right now. I do think that they have the opportunity to be a good defense, but with Willie Gay out and without knowing if Tyrann Mathieu is going to play, I think that could lead to a very high scoring game. The other part of it that you have to figure out is how are your different pieces going to fit in? Your corners are different this year than they were last year. How's that going to affect things? How's that going to affect Kansas City defending this Browns offense, which I think is going to be a very good offense this season? And then you get back to talking about the Browns defense, and the question is are they going to be able to mesh? Are they going to be able to be what you want them to be, and are
Are
they
they
going
going to be able to
to
communicate? They're not that
Well,
experienced
yeah,
with each other. That's one of the biggest concerns
right.
too.
Yeah, no experience, no chemistry. It's really hard to know if they're going to be able to do what you want to be able to do as a team. And I think that they can be good. I just don't know if they're going to be good week one. So I guess we'll see what happens. I do think it's going to be a high scoring game. I could see 34-30. I'm going to go right now probably 35-28 Kansas City, but I could see it being closer, especially if the Browns are able to keep the Chiefs slowed down, at least in the first half, which that's going to be hard to do because Andy Reid always seems to be ready to go when these games start for real.
It seems like Andy Reid has this script ready for as soon as he knows who his week one opponent is, it's like, all right, the script has started. And, I just, they've been a fun team, obviously, to monitor. And the Chiefs have been, so many primetime moments. There's so many national games. It's hard not to watch and enjoy what they do. And you have a player like, of course, Patrick Mahomes, who's just, kind of become the league darling as we all sit here and everybody wants to kick themselves because we've all had Tom Brady dead and on the side of the road now for a decade. Some people 2 decades. But, they're a fun team to watch. If you love offense, this is certainly a team you want to watch here. And for the Browns, they're hoping that, they are closing that gap between the Kansas City Chiefs and themselves.
And that is going to be it for us today. Thank you all for listening. This is your first crossover episode, Locked on Chiefs, Locked on Browns. Enjoy the game. Let us know what you think, and we will be back tomorrow with more.